Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to be constructing a boot hook. My mother-in-law has a minor amount of mobility problems. That's why we have a ramp here at the house. And she has a difficult time pulling her winter boots on because the hole in the back is a little small for her finger. And again, bending down and picking things up is difficult. So I'm going to construct a boot hook. I initially told my wife we should just give her one of these. My wife didn't like that idea. So I'm going to take this piece of 1-inch diameter oak and that piece of 1/4 threaded rod, and I am going to take the fasteners, cap nut, nylon lined washers, nuts, washers, and some shrink wrap to make her a hook. My goal is to cut a piece about 5 inches long, drill a hole in the middle, cut a section of the rod so that it will be 9 inches long from the handle to the point where it bends, and then I'm going to use the shrink wrap to cover the section that's going to come out. So like the section that would be here, right there on when I'm done constructing it, that will be covered with shrink wrap so her fingers will not come in contact with the threads themselves. I don't really care if the threads are in contact with the loop. If it becomes an issue, I can always shrink wrap that in too. That's going to be my project today, and at the moment we don't have the greatest lighting. I apologize. I'm in the kitchen because my wife is going to be in the office doing taxes and such, so I have to kind of move myself in here, though it is a good place to set up for me in some ways because this is where I'll be clamping things so I can saw them and work on them, because I'm going to need to file them and make it look a little nicer and things like that. And eventually I'm going to want to treat this with some linseed oil, because it's a good indoor winter treatment, because I can't go outside and spray things easily at the moment, nor do I want to be spraying spray aerosols in my basement with two natural gas furnaces. That's not a great mix. The next step of the project is probably going to be to cut stuff to length. So here we have the setup for the cutting. I have the 5 inches marked, and since I had the measuring tape and the pen already in my hand, I've marked the 2.5 inch point where I'll be drilling a hole. And this is my Japanese style handsaw. This is the handsaw I use for most simple tasks around the house. I also have one which is a finer tooth, a little more flexible. It's a double-sided, it's just a stick style saw. And I get that. They let you get into a little tighter quarters if you need to. But that's what I'll be cutting the part with next. So there we have the wooden piece already cut and ready to go. Here we have my hacksaw, and here we have the 1/4 inch 20 piece of threaded rod set up, marked, and ready to be cut with said hacksaw. I need to go grab a glove so I can grab the other end safely while I am cutting the piece. Alrighty, so now we have my Dremel tool out, which I will use to deburr one end of this, because the other end was the factory end, and I don't need to touch that. I'm going to put the cap nut on there. You're never going to see it. The other end, however, I would like to have it deburred so that it is not rough on anyone's fingers. And since I have the Dremel tool out at the moment, I'm going to use it with a sandpaper drum to just knock off the corner here so it's not sharp. I'll do both ends of that. Alrighty, so here we have the two main components, the grip and the threaded rod. Here we have my 48-ounce engineer's hammer, and we have a vise. Now yes, I realize the vise is not attached to anything. I don't have a workbench at the moment. However, it will still hold something so I can whack it and bend it at an angle. And yes, that sound in the background is my washing machine. It's oh so happy that I'm about to put a piece of metal in there and smack it with a hammer. I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but I had a friend years ago, and his wife asked him what he wanted for Christmas. He said, I want a 48-ounce hammer. And his wife said, well, what else do you want? He said, you give me a 48-ounce hammer, he said, and I can make anything else I want. So we've broken out my set of drill bits, my drill. I hope the right size drill for this job, because I want it to be tight as I can get it without being impossible to put on the handle. There is the bend I put on it with the vise and the hammer. And I've broken out my little rig here. I picked this up at a flea market for like $2. It's not perfect, but it will help me hold the shaft I'm going to be using. Keep it centered because it's got this angle. Keep it from moving side to side at least. And I just hold it by hand. And then very carefully and very slowly drill down through this so that I get my get the result I want. I hope. And here we have the setup drill bit, drill, all set to go. All I have to do is loosen a holder, the retention screw right there, which will allow this to go up and down, and very carefully, slowly drill a hole right through that blue dot. And we're nearing the end. I apologize. I said I had linseed oil. I actually have tung oil, and tung oil will work just fine. So now I'm going to put some tung oil on that, give it a nice little treatment. And then it's going to be final assembly. I've got a couple of wrenches out. I'm actually going to use my dog bone wrench. I haven't used that one in a while. And then, of course, I'm going to have to use the shrink wrap on there as well. So we are at the final construction stage. Here we have the piece coated in tung oil. It does give a nice, simple finish. I like the smell of it as well. Here we have the shaft with the shrink wrap already installed, so that I don't have to worry about it taking it apart. And I go, hey, I forgot to put that on there. And now it's time to put the whole thing together. Alright folks, there you go. There's the completed project. One completed boot hook. Gold cap, which I didn't know until I assembled it. Tung oil covered handle. Washer, nylon coated nut, shrink wrap, and the shrink wrap keeps your fingers from coming in contact with that. So, and the nut's quite comfortable because you're pulling this way. You're not driving it forward. So, and I ended up only using the work gloves and that wrench right there to assemble it. I didn't need the other one. I still have a few things left over which I can use for future projects. I got to do something with the rest of that dowel. I don't know what, but I'll find an answer. So there we have the completed boot hook. Now my wife has to go downstairs, give it to her mother, and we'll see how it works.